Good afternoon, folks, and thank you all for joining the monthly call to provide you with updates on the latest summer readiness activities. My name is Jimmy Bashara with the ISO Stakeholder Affairs. I'm filling in for Christina Osborne today and facilitating today's session. Just as a friendly reminder, the objective of this call is to provide a high-level update on summer readiness updates. This includes, of course, operations, regulatory matters, related policies, and implementation deadlines. And as such, any detailed questions relating to market activities or policies should be discussed in the appropriate forums, such as the market update call and our initiative stakeholder meetings. And we please request that you submit data requests through our city database. Our agenda for today, as you can see, will be to start with an operations update from John Phipps, our Executive Director of Grid Operations, and then Adrian Chisella from our implementation group will provide an implementation update. Adrian is the Senior Manager of Strategic Initiative Management. And then Greg Cook, our Executive Director of Market and Infrastructure Policy, will give a policy update. And then before Q&A and conclusions, we will give a summer market performance update provided by Guillermo Bautista from our forecasting group. I am also joined today by other ISO colleagues, Abdul Muhammad Ali and Joanne Serena. Before we begin, there will be an opportunity to ask questions after the presentation. I'll be sure to provide instructions on how to raise your hand at that time, since there has been a change to this process. Also, the presentation is available on the 2021 Summer Readiness webpage, which is linked on the homepage of the ISO's website. We'll also provide a link to that at the end. And I believe we posted this deck this morning. And just as a friendly reminder, this call is being recorded, and we'll be sure to post the video file on our website, which will be available for a limited time. And of course, any related transcriptions should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. And with that, I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you, Jimmy, and good afternoon, everybody. I'll give a brief update on conditions so far this summer, and just a minor update on our 4420 emergency procedure, the alerts, warnings, and emergencies. Okay, Jimmy, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. This is just providing an overview with the number of our alerts, warnings, and emergencies that we have declared so far this year. And then I broke down the ones for June and July. This one, you can actually find this table on the ISO website. If you look for grid history of alerts, warnings, and emergencies, this table has the data going back to 2000. I just kind of provided this overview just as a comparison for previous years as to what it has looked like this year. It has been a more challenging year with fires. Earlier in the year, we had some gas supply challenges, along with just some tight supplies on high temperatures. So in June, we did have some restricted maintenance operations. Then June 17th and 18th, we issued flex alerts. We did see loads approaching a high level that would be challenging our resource adequacy levels. And on June 17th, we did lose some resources and did have to go into a warning, and that allowed us to dispatch some of our demand response products. Rolling into to July, overall the month started off kind of quiet. On July 8th, the evening of the 8th and the morning of the 9th, a fire started up in the Oregon area. I think most of you should know now the bootleg fire. And we got word from BPA and Pacific Corp that the fire was threatening some of the 500 kV lines that come into California. We did issue a flex alert due to this condition, and we saw that there was a possibility of losing those lines. And we went into a warning, and eventually had to go into a stage 2 when the fire actually did cause the lines to relay. It caused a large derate because it not only derated the 500 kV AC system into California, but due to the loss of that, the parallel DC line, the Pacific DC intertie, was also derated. And so that was about a 4,000 megawatt loss to the California ISO of capacity. We did manage to manage the condition and peak load that evening, remaining in a stage 2. And what we did for part of that was we did dispatch some of our contingency reserves and did use some firm load as to replace some of the contingency reserves. So we took firm load that could be dropped within 10 minutes to meet our contingency reserve requirements. As we rolled into the following days, we were able to manage the situation a little bit better. We did have restricted maintenance operations to ensure that no other equipment would be being touched or worked on during that period. Issued the flex alerts to try to get some public conservation. And on the 10th, we did do a warning that allowed us to use some of the demand response resources. Coming into this week that we're in currently, last week we were getting heads up that we could see some extremely high temperatures and some high loads. And as we rolled into the days, so we did issue a restricted maintenance operation for the 27th and 28th initially. And then on Monday, as we saw that the condition was going to continue into Thursday, extended that restricted maintenance operation into Thursday. We did issue a flex alert for the 28th due to seeing that our resource adequacy levels were going to be stretched thin on that day based on the forecasted loads. We did have some triggers that gave us an indication we should do that. Thankfully, we made it through the day without any further issues, and the temperatures and loads did come in a little bit lower than was initially forecast. And Jimmy, if you can go to the next page. And so on this one, I want to give a little bit more background on the warnings that we had to go into on those days where there was not an alert. So our flex alert is different than the California ISO alert. There's an ISO alert that's triggered in the day-ahead time frame based on day-ahead market results and or forecasted conditions. And for both of these days, the day-ahead results and the forecasted conditions looked fine, things we could manage. But on both of these days, we did have issues arise that caused us to have to go farther into our procedures, things that cropped up in real time that hadn't been forecasted. So that was the reason that you would see a warning without a related alert on the previous day. And so on the slides, this is all I have, but I did want to talk just briefly to our 4420 procedure. We have been trying to continue to refine that as we've gone through this year, working both internally and externally for the communications of the flex alerts and our AWEs. And so that has continued refinement. So you may have seen some recent updates, and probably we'll see a few more in the next week. And again, that's just as we've used it and trying to improve our communications and the heads up that we give on that. So that's the end of my presentation.
John. Next we have Adrian with the implementation update.
Good afternoon. This is Adrian Kiosia. So I have a couple of slides as an update for you on the implementation track. And for those of you that are familiar with the release user group and with the market simulation, a lot of this information and statuses are discussed there. Anyway, since I have received several questions and comments from market participants, I have prepared a slide that summarizes all the completed implementation on the summer readiness that we have for this year. So as you know, we have a FERC 31 with activation on March 17 and June 13. Resource adequacy enhancements track 1 with activation on June 3rd, June 30th, and July 15. This project is complete. And we have the summer readiness enhancements project associated with that related policy. And we have implementation on June 15, June 30th, and very recently we have activated this new OASIS report showing gross exports and imports by intertie. This was on July 26th. So this is for your reference. Again, all of those items were completed implementations. In terms of that, what's outstanding to be implemented, Jimmy, if you can go to the next slide, please. Those are the outstanding items. And again, for those that are participating in the RUG and market simulation calls, we just had one about an hour ago, and we discussed all those items. And we have 4 items that we are aiming to complete by August 4th, which is next week on Wednesday. And we have the RDRR for RTPD. This one we plan to activate on August 4th. And we have yet to have received registration for this one. Registration takes a while, but probably the parties interested on this one, they are waiting for us to activate this in production and then go through the registration process. Then we have the export load and bidding scheduling priorities. We have market simulation in progress, and we just discussed an hour ago the structured scenarios. We have completed one couple of days ago, scenario 8A, and we plan in a couple of days to execute we have for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we have the 8B executed, and at the request of several market participants, we are repeating the 8B on Monday and Tuesday next week. So again, we're working with the market participants to make sure that all the needs are met there. We have the handling of RFRT and PT export and structure market simulation, again aiming for 8.4. And then the last one, the non-policy scope to the outlook publishing of the hourly RA data, also targeted for 8.4. We have filed with FERC to ask for an extension. As you know, initially we targeted those for 7/29, and because of the high heat conditions that we saw on the grid, then we had a no touch on our IT system. So then we were forced to move those implementation on next week. So that's the update I have.
Great, thanks a lot, Adrian. All right, next we have Greg Cook with the policy update.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this will be a very brief policy update. As Adrian just explained, all the policy that we developed for the summer readiness enhancements has either been activated or is soon to be activated. We did, however, coming out of that initiative, commit to starting 2 new initiatives, and we have both of those now underway. Those would be the Energy Imbalance Market Resource Sufficiency Evaluation and the External Load Forward Scheduling Priorities Initiatives. So first, for the Resource Sufficiency Evaluation, we started that initiative with an issue paper that we posted on June 3rd. We then held stakeholder workshops on June 25th and 28th, where stakeholders were given the opportunity to provide their views on the issues. And we are now using that information and developing a straw proposal that we plan on posting here in a couple of weeks on the week of August 9th. And we'll also plan on discussing this at the Market Surveillance Committee meeting that is scheduled for August 27th. And this is all driving us towards a board decision this coming December. And then for the External Load Forward Scheduling Priorities Initiative, we just kicked that off this month with a stakeholder workshop on July 13th. And that's helping to inform the issue paper that we'll be posting by the end of August. And then we've also identified that we will be running this as a 2-phase process. And that first phase will be focused on enhancements that we can have in place by May 31st of next year. The reason for that is the current provisions that we have in place are set to sunset on that date. So we'll need to decide how we're going to go forward after May 31st. And then we'll also be looking at then longer term, more comprehensive enhancements that right now we're hoping and targeting to have those implemented in the fall of 2024. So that's the end of my update, and I'll hand over to Guillermo.
Thank you, Greg. Can we move to the next slide, Jamie? One more. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to give you this update. I'd like to introduce a new report we are creating to assess and communicate the market performance within the...
We have, hey, Guillermo, I think we have Anna McKenna. Anna, do you want to make a comment on the previous section? Sorry, Guillermo, to cut you off. I think Anna's trying to say something. I'm trying to promote Anna to the speaker line. I'm not sure, operator, if you see Anna's line, if you can identify it.
And if you are on the line, can you please press #2? Okay, Anna, you are unmuted.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I think I called in the wrong number, but I just wanted to share and update everyone on a few filings that we've made over the past week and that are related to our summer initiative readiness efforts. And we did file on the 26th a compliance filing consistent with the Commission's requirements to put our penalty prices into the tariff. We did make that filing, but we also requested clarification of that filing because we found it necessary that we may find ourselves in circumstances where the penalty prices in the tariff may not provide us a feasible market run or market solution. You know, we may sometimes not be able to solve, or for whatever reason it doesn't work. We might have to, on an urgency basis, slightly change those penalty prices, not in a magnitude or in any way changes the priorities that we're honoring, but that allows us to go forward with the market. We asked the Commission to provide us the flexibility to do so and then go in and file the changes into the tariff consistent with the priorities in the tariff. There were some concerns expressed to me, and I wanted to share with you that we're looking to clarify and make sure that it's clear that we would not in any way change the priorities. This is common practice in the other ISOs and RTOs as well, where if you have an infeasibility with the penalty prices in your market software, you might need to have this kind of flexibility so that you don't find yourself in a situation where you're waiting for a long time to get, you know, a change in a price that is pretty much immaterial to the outcome of the scheduling priorities. I just wanted to share that with you all. We made that filing on the 26th. We're looking to make sure folks understand the intent of that filing. It doesn't change the priorities and our commitment to implement the solution we had for the summer for the wheel-throughs. The other filing we made is to, and I think this was shared earlier, but I just want to make sure folks are aware, there was a filing to request the extension, that we be able to implement the wheeling through and export priority transactions next week. All these filings are separate filings, but just wanted to share with folks that that is out there at the Commission. And I will be happy to take questions later if there's anything.
Thank you, Anna. And apologies once more, Guillermo. Please continue when you left off. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, and I was indicating that I want to introduce a new report that we are creating to provide analysis about the market performance, and that is targeted for the summer months. The CAISO obviously has existing reports and forums to communicate and disseminate market performance. We believe that having this dedicated and more formal report for the summer conditions is important, mainly to convey specific areas of interest during the summer, and equally important to be able to do it in a timely fashion. We expect to be able to publish this monthly report in about 3 weeks after the month is completed. As you can see, there will be always a trade-off between making this report available as soon as possible versus the extent and the depth of the material that we are going to include in the report. We believe the scope and the level of detail that we are envisioning for this report is a good balance and be able to produce it quickly. Early this week, we already posted the monthly report for June, and we have a scheduled call for going into the details, and that is scheduled for next Monday, August 2nd. You are encouraged to participate. The details of that call are available on our website, and you can just use this link to go to it. Next slide, Jimmy. The scope of the report is about the overall performance of the market, with an emphasis obviously on the summer conditions. Many of these areas were previously discussed at length during the root cause analysis of the summer 2020, and includes weather conditions, how the supply and demand and the RA are looking for the month. We also focus on interties, the imports, exports, the wheels, which has been a topic of interest in the last round of the policy initiative for this summer 2021. We also cover demand response, estimates of energy conservation due to the flex, storage resource performance, resource sufficiency evaluation, and overall how they are performing in the real-time market. We have also included some tracking similar to what Adrian introduced earlier, with the objective to start assessing how the summer initiative enhancements are performing once they are in place. The goal for this call is to simply introduce the report and the reasons behind this. For any detailed discussions and dedicated discussions about the specific details of the report, I will encourage you to participate in the next Monday call for this report. That's all what I have for this section, Jimmy.
Great. Appreciate it, Guillermo. As mentioned, folks, we have reserved questions until now. We have concluded the presentation, at least the discussion portion. So we do have new instructions for how to ask questions through the new web format. If you're connected to audio only through the computer and have used the call me option, then you would use the raise hand icon located above the chat window, right on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and then only push #2 if you had dialed in and use that option to connect to the meeting. Please send any chats, of course, to the event producer for any technical assistance, and we ask that you please state your name and affiliation before making your comments. You may also send any questions via chat to the meeting host. As I said, I'm filling in for Christina today. And with that, Chris, do we have any questions as of now?
Right now, I don't have any callers in the queues.
All right. Well, we'll give folks a minute or two to get in the queue in case they do have questions. And at this time, we'll also take the opportunity to remind folks that we have a capacity procurement mechanism, or CPM, significant events in effect. Due to several significant changes in the assumptions underlying the Resource Adequacy Program, or RA program, and the summer grid conditions, we've used our tariff authority to issue a significant event CPM effective July 1st. The notice is found on our website, and you can see there it's noted possibly in effect through October. We are requesting SCs with additional non-RA capacity who wish to offer into the ISO to notify us through Citi, or you can contact your customer service representative or contact at 916-608-7320. And you can see we provide a link at the bottom for any additional information on this. And it looks like we do have chat questions popping up. Sorry, folks, if I missed that. But any questions on this, and as mentioned, push #2, or you can use the raise hand feature. And getting to the chat questions. Looks like we've got questions on where the report's posted. That's online, as mentioned. and we posted the deck earlier. We have a question from Matthew Sacoli asking, does the ISO plan to backfill the export and import by TIE data? And I'm not sure if anyone from ISO, feel free, of course, to chime in on that.
I couldn't follow the question. Can we have the participant elaborating on what the question is, please?
Yeah, Matthew, if you're comfortable raising your hand or pushing #2 so the operator can identify you, please do, or you can feel free, of course, to elaborate in the chat. We believe the question is, will we go back in time for data? But yeah, Matthew, please feel free to add to that.
Right. This is Adrian, and I was, chatting internally here with someone else, and I understand the answer to that question is no, only from trade date 7/26 onward.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Adrian. We do have a question from Ethan Matz. He asks, with respect to the Boot Lake fire, when was the 500 kV DC tie restored? You mentioned a trip/D rate on July 9th. Not sure if anyone can answer that question. Oh, thanks. Okay, I see that was answered in the chat. And folks, as a reminder, you can download the chat. If you go to File, Save, or Print, you can do it that way. And just want to see, Chris, any more questions on the line that came through?
Checking, and I don't see any callers that came through the line.
Great. We have some resources as mentioned. In addition to the Summer Readiness page where this material is posted, you can receive Flex alerts. And we do encourage you to sign up for those. And we have a number of other resources there, the news webpage. And as mentioned, please send us questions through the city database or through the Contact Us link on the ISO homepage. And any media contacts should go through isomedia@kaiso.com. And I just want to make sure everyone heard the last chat question. I'm trying to scroll back to look at John's answer to verbalize it for folks. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and Jimmy, I'm here if you want. Just really quick on the 500 kV lines that relayed as far as when they were restored. There were several lines, both in Oregon and in California, that relayed, but the COI and or the Pacific DC intertie were never actually completely open or set at 0. It's just from their full rating, they had been derated due to a loss of transmission capacity. And then the DC was derated so that if it relayed, it wouldn't, the energy that was flowing on the DC wouldn't fully come back over onto the AC. So BPA and LA lowered the limit on the PDCI to avoid a post-contingent overload. So I'll try to find the information of when the COI began to be re-rated. It was over several weeks, actually, that it slowly kept increasing when BPA felt that the lines on their system were no longer a threat by the fire.
Thanks a lot, John. That's all we have, folks. appreciate your time. It was a very quick session. Thanks for your questions, and thanks for everyone's time who presented today. And as mentioned, the recording will be available for a limited time in a couple of business days, as is typically. So we ask that you have a great rest of your afternoon, folks. Thank you so much.